okay, this is happening. Can I be with this? Can I be here? Can I be just with life as it's happening and not running away from it and not just spending all my energy wishing it was different?
Welcome to the Relational Parenting Podcast. I'm Jennifer Hayes, a parent coach and 20-year childcare veteran. Each week, I sit down with my own father, Rick Hayes, and discuss the complicated issues that parents face today, as well as some of the oldest questions in the book. From the latest research and the framework of my relational parenting method, we offer thought-provoking solutions to your deepest parenting struggles. Added bonuses include intergenerational wounding discussions and guest childcare experts. We will also start taking your parenting questions in episode 5, so be sure to comment with your biggest questions or email me directly at jenny@jennyb.co. Let's get started. Yael Shy is the CEO of Mindfulness Consulting, LLC, where she teaches and consults on mindfulness for universities, corporations, and private clients around the world. She is the author of the award-winning book, What Now? Meditation for Your 20s and Beyond, and the founder of Mindful NYU, the largest campus-based mindfulness initiative in the U.S. She is adjunct faculty at the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, or HaLev, as well as at New York University. She has been featured on Good Morning America, CBS, Fox 5 News, and in Time Magazine and the Harvard Business Review. Thank you for letting me know that, Yael. Okay. We are live, friends and family. Welcome back to the Relational Parenting Podcast. We are here with Yael Shy, and she is a meditation teacher, a mindfulness coach. She's an author. She's a mom, and I'm sure so many other hats that you wear. And I am just so excited that you are here today. The conversation that you and I had a couple months ago when we were discussing the podcast was just so I felt so at peace after talking to you.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just you're just a very soothing person in my experience. So, but anyway, let's find out more about you. Tell us about you. What are you up to right now? And let's talk about all of this mindfulness stuff and how it has affected your parenting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for having me here today.
Yeah.
These are subjects that are very close to my heart. So a little bit about me. I live in Connecticut. I'm a new transplant here. So yeah.
Oh.
I have 2 children, 2 boys. They're 6 and 5. And I have been a meditation teacher and consultant and coach for about 15 years. I worked previously at New York University for a long time, for over a decade, where I ran their spiritual life center, and I founded and ran the mindfulness center there. And in 2020, I started my own company called Mindfulness Consulting. And from there, I run classes, I run group coaching programs, and I do consulting for organizations and institutions. And yes, I have a book called What Now? Meditation for Your 20s and Beyond.
Beautiful.
Very cool. I saw the blurb about I think it was on Amazon about Mindful NYU being the longest running campus-based mindfulness initiative. I was going to ask you about that. That's pretty. That's one of the differences between the East Coast and the flyover states. there's all this cool stuff going on in New York City and that kind of thing. And now 30 years later, we're finding out about it in Central Illinois.
Yes, no, it's definitely sweeping the country.
Cool.
And it is what we believe to be the largest initiative. I don't know that it's the longest running.
Okay, maybe that's it. Okay.
Who knows? I'll claim it if that's true.
Right.
It is now because it's on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Take it.
So when you and I talked, Yael, you said that you had this like really deep, really ingrained meditation practice and mindfulness practice, and that when your kids came along, it kind of turned life upside down, which I'm sure most, if not all parents would say the same thing, that whatever their life was before kids was completely turned on its head. I would love to know more about how you navigated that, especially with like I know that meditation it can be so grounding and so integrating, and it help you really like approach life in a calm, peaceful way. I'm curious of what that transition looked like for you.
Yeah, it's funny because, you said that sweet thing about that you felt calm after we talked, but
Yeah.
my inner experience for most of my life is not calm. It is like I found meditation because I was like anxious, off the charts, anxiety,
Oh,
Yeah.
and
so it's learned, not innate. That's a
very
good.
much.
That's a good story. There's hope for the rest of
Yeah.
us.
Not
Yeah.
only is it learned, but I don't even know that. Like, I think it's my personality type that is anxious and fidgety and,
Okay.
grasping. And so I think that I found meditation because I was really suffering from a lot of things.
Okay. Okay.
And it helped me so much. And then when I had kids, it was like just a complete rupture of the person that I was. And
Mm.
then it became like this new person. And it took me years, it feels like, to like kind of learn who this new person was in
Mm-hmm.
relationship to the kids and my body and my partner and life. And so,
Yes.
the meditation practice I had was about a different kind of a stage of my life. And it took me a lot of time to be like, okay, how does this help me here? What is this for here?
Mm.
Even if the basic principles are the same.
Yeah.
That's
What
kind of
did
cool.
you
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. That's amazing. And I think that I think it's funny that, let's see, I'm tripping all over my words. I think the people who are anxious, who are naturally have anxiety or depression or other, mental health struggles, or, have just general struggles earlier in life, tend to seek these things out for themselves. And then because I mirror your experience, Yael, in searching for these healing modalities, we then become the teachers who continue spreading the message of the healing and the integration and all of those things.
Mhm.
So how did you transform? Like, did you come back to your practice? Did it look completely different? Was it at a different time of day? Was it just when you could fit it in? Did you meditate with your boys eventually? Like, how did it evolve?
Yeah. I think in the very early years, it became more of like the basic part of what the meditation practice became was how can I make room for these changes and feelings and whatever is happening in the moment at that time,
Yeah.
which was total chaos in my
Yeah.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
How can
Mm-hmm.
I just stop fighting, like adding more resistance to, what was happening? And, um, and sometimes, what was happening in those moments were sometimes like exquisitely incredible and sometimes extremely painful and like level 5 torture of not sleeping for, 2
Mm,
weeks or something.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And so it really, like, all formal practice went out the window in those very early years, and it became much more
Hmm.
about like, okay, this is happening. Can I be with this? Can I be here? Can I be just with life as it's happening and not running away from it and not
Mm,
just spending all my energy wishing it was different?
yeah.
And then gradually, like, all the logistical pieces of formal meditation practice, I was able to find my way to. It still doesn't look like it did when I was younger. Like when I was younger, I would, every chance I got, probably about once a season, I would go on like a 5, a 7, or a 2 week long meditation retreat where that's all I did for the entire period of time with teachers all across the country. I didn't care. And I'm not fancy free anymore at this stage. So I don't get to do many retreats, but and I also can't practice when I want, whenever I want.
Yeah.
Some people talk about practicing with their kids. It is not happening for me. My kids are like taking things apart, making noises.
Four or five. That's getting them to sit down. We did a little bit of teaching of kids with karate, and you had to be a little older than that to stand still and be disciplined. And meditation.
Yeah,
that would be tough with wee ones.
How much of the I know you already talked about this, but I wonder how much of the karate and martial arts is, infuses within it a kind of a mindfulness practice.
It does. It's really all internal. The external, and we were by no means 10th degree black belts. We got to like purple belt, which was like three away from your black belt. 3 belts in our
2.
style, and 2. Now there's 3 brown belts in our style. We were just about to go up for our first brown belt review. We would have been brown belts, but circumstances intervened. But there was a lot of the training and the discipline and all that. That's all about building your inner self. Not so that you don't need to fight. It's not really. It's very spiritual. We didn't really get into Buddhism, but it's very internal if you're doing it right.
We did a little bit. We learned the Eightfold Path and the 4 we did the 4 Noble Truths. We did dip into some Buddhism, and I didn't know at the time that it was Buddhism. I thought it was just a karate philosophies. And when I studied religions later, I was like, oh, I know this.
I know this.
I learned this when I was 10.
I had to memorize this.
I had to memorize this. I was tested on this. So there was, in the Eightfold Path and the four Noble Truths became almost mantra-like for us in how we conduct. Like they would be woven, the concepts would be woven into the class. They hung on the walls on these really like cool scrolled, written in Japanese posters and stuff. And so there was, and like self-discipline and really knowing, like it was drilled into us to not ever use this training to harm someone. It was only for self-defense.
Boy, if you get in a fight, you better have a good reason and have a scar to show for it. It's like, no, walk. This is so you punch them and run away. Don't be out there. That's a real good observation, though. Have you had some exposure with people in the martial arts or something like that to look at the spiritual side of it?
I'm very interested. My son took I don't know, he lasted like maybe 3 months of karate. I think I'm hoping he goes back because I think it's just beautiful. And I do think it is. The principles are all there.
It's challenging. It's a good growth thing. You'll learn as a group, and then in our side, it's all about the instructor. You got to find the right instructor, the right school. It's like a counselor or something. The first one doesn't always fit.
Yes.
Keep trying.
That's right. I will.
I love that. How do you, other outside of like literally sitting in meditation with 2 young boys, which is impossible. Do you weave your right? Well, I think it's impossible for most people. I've been successful in short snippets meditating with children, but like you got to give them something to do. It can't just be a silent meditation. It's got to be kind of a guided meditation. But how does your mindfulness practice weave into your parenting? What are some of the things that that are like you and your partner's like big values for raising kids, and how to address things like big emotions and thought processes? And when he quit karate, what was that conversation like, you know?
Yeah. So this is really like a big place of growth and learning. I mean, when you talk about where my practice is, like it's much more than taking a meditation practice and pasting it on my life as a mother.
Yeah.
That's not how it is.
Yeah.
It's much more like these explosions of difficult, complicated things are happening in as a mother. And I'm like, okay, this is the site of my practice right now. Figuring this out is like all of the practice. So for me, for instance, we have a son that he's not the karate one because he refused to even try karate. He's the younger one, and he is a big feeler, big, very kind of super sensitive to the world. And thankfully seems to be kind of learning self-regulation tools just by virtue of growing up. But even like 1 year ago, maybe even 8 months ago, he would just have these epic meltdowns and very rigid and didn't like when things were changed on him. And it would be like explosive and very jarring and hard for the whole family.
Yeah.
And I had to and we did this sort of with the help of coaches and some of the teachers at his school. We were like, what do we do? And their advice to us really came back to stuff that has been helpful for me in my own meditation practice, which is, can you sit in the middle of the storm of that total crazy tantrum meltdown and not run away and not need to stop it?
Yeah.
Just be able to be like I had a coach that said, like, imagine it's kind of like a plumb line that you're dropping deep into the earth. To be able to be there, like, no matter what, and just
You're the
let the
tree.
storm
You're the
come
tree in the
through.
wind. Yeah.
Exactly.
Reminds
And
me of the term grounding. You know, you're getting attached to something steady.
yes, exactly. And it doesn't mean like you're giving him what he wants. And it doesn't mean that you have to shut his thing down. It's
Right.
just to be this loving presence in the middle of it. And so that was huge. And it was like a real place of practice. Like I was like, here we buckle up. We're here. And another part of that has been, as part of those, like withstanding the tantrums, another thing I learned was to kind of look him in the eye and be like, look at me, when he was kind of flailing. Like it really looks like a scared animal, when this is happening, total dysregulation. And I say things like, look at me. And when he finds my eyes, like eventually, and then I was like, this is really hard, but we're going to get through it together. We're going to get through it together.
Little
And the
reassurance.
hardest,
Yeah.
so it's like validating. I didn't make this up. This
I'm
came
gonna
from
bring
like
you
Dr.
on as a
Becky or
parent
whatever.
coach. Yes.
Yeah, it's not from me.
Who did you
But
talk to? Because I don't hear this from anybody. Nobody has these two things, like sitting in the storm. So without having to fix it or run away from it, just be with the storm of your child's emotions. And then the second step and skill in that is validating the experience. This is really hard, and you're not alone.
That's right.
We're in this together. Like those two things, if anyone takes anything from this podcast ever, I don't care what the last episodes say, I don't care what future episodes say. If you can take those two skills to your children right now, you will change the course of their life.
Those are kind of pillars. That's cool that you had some of this and then you figured out how to applied mindfulness. You figured out how to apply it. We've talked before on the podcast about yeah, parenting is dynamic and, things change and it's going by so fast. You don't have time to sit and think and go check the book for what you read last month. It's
Yeah.
very, very immersive and interactive. And to be able to take this skill, this mindfulness practice and use it and apply it oh gosh, I'm thinking of kid tantrums, how stressful that is. That's
Yeah.
just that's just marvelous. That's really great.
Thank you. I mean, it's kind of like similar to how I started meditating. It's like in desperation, like we tried everything
That's
and
right.
then all right, here we go. But it's
That's
teaching me so much about myself, even like,
yeah,
can I
yeah.
say that can I do that for myself? Can I hold my own feelings with that, with
Yes.
compassion and, with
That's
like
the test,
love?
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the modeling it. Am I talking about it or this skill, or am I modeling it? Am I embodying it? Is the word in the notes here I saw is,
Oh man,
do
I
I
thought that was just a
embody this
coincidence.
for
I
my
was
children
like,
to watch?
that's one of her words.
Yeah, no. I decided I better fess up to that because I knew I'd get a question. Where'd you come up with that word? I just read your notes a couple minutes ago. Sorry, I stole your word. That was a good word.
No, that's right. That's exactly what it's about.
But yeah, that's hard and under fire. You're in the middle of it, and to bring it to somebody else,
Yeah.
good parenting skills,
Mm,
getting out of your own head, not reacting, not fixing, rescuing, and protecting. Yeah,
mm, mm.
outstanding.
And it's just, it takes so much practice. And it's funny because this child is definitely like more just classically challenging than our other one. But
Hmm.
the other one's emotions are so much more of a trigger for me because he is more
Mm.
like me. Like
Hmm.
have been very taught to be very compliant. Like
Yeah.
I'm not as so I probably wouldn't have the space to be this like wild thing that my younger one is, but the older one has like anxieties and fears and like nightmares,
Mm.
and he's just
Uh,
kind of like has all that stuff that I
Oh,
see in myself, and that's much harder in my
yeah,
experience.
really?
Yeah.
yeah. How to
Well,
reassure,
yeah.
and parenting is tough. It would be nice if all children were exactly alike. It's not. It doesn't. Never happens that way. You know.
Right. And like each one needs such different things and triggers different things. And that's what I mean. It's like it's all back like a mirror on yourself of like where do
Yeah.
you
It
need to
is. It
accept
is. So the one
Well, I
with
think that's why
anxiety and
they.
stuff, how do you
That's okay. Go ahead.
yeah, how does it different with the
love.
more reactive one versus the quieter anxious one? How do you deal with the quiet anxious one?
Yeah. So yeah, just like even thinking about it, it's so much harder for me. But how I'm learning to deal with it is um trying to so my first instinct when he comes to me with like one of these like I'm so scared, like there's so many things to be scared of, or like whatever he's scared of, like monsters for
Yeah,
instance, my first
sure.
instinct is to be like, there's nothing to be scared of, you're safe, you're fine, like in
Yeah.
other words, shut it down
Yeah.
Yep.
because it's triggering to me.
Yep.
And so I have to watch myself and be like, okay, you don't have to shut this down. And to be able, just like with my other son, like to validate not that there's something to be scared of, but that he feels scared and
Yeah.
That
that it
he's
is like
scared. Yeah.
a human thing to feel. And
Yes.
so I have to be much more aware of that desire to like get rid of it, or like you said, like to solve it or fix it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, when I was younger, and even now sometimes, I also was really scared of monsters. Like I'm trying to kind of give him that context so he
Yeah.
doesn't feel bad about being scared.
Yes.
And he loves when I was younger stories.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful. And
Ah, okay.
and I
Seeing
think like,
seeing that in
yeah,
someone else, especially someone they love and trust, like a parent figure, is so healing to some or so
mm,
reassuring to like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like this is
yeah,
normal. Yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
continue.
yeah. That's right. That's right. About anything, like they love to hear it. And that, and then I think. there's all these kinds of techniques that I've tried about, like, I heard that you're supposed to say, like, okay, this is worry voice. Can we be quiet down worry voice? Or, like, somehow differentiate it, unblend it
Yes.
from themselves, their self-conception. But honestly, I'm not so good. I'm still trying to figure this out because
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out for myself, and it's just not. It's not easy for me.
That I think that most parents are probably sitting there going, yeah, like it's hard. It's so hard. And I think that part
Yeah.
of the gift, like I think we get the children that we get because we are meant to serve them and their life path and their karma and their journey, like, and where they're meant to be and who they're meant to be in some way. They are also here to heal us, to help us, to,
Mhm.
like, at whatever age you have children, the like you're going to get the children that are here to heal whatever you haven't healed yet. And so all those triggers, all the anger, frustration, anxiety, and overwhelm, all those big feelings that you have with your kids,
Mhm.
that is not an indicator that your children are doing something wrong. That is an indicator that they are pushing that button because there is something in you have not dealt with.
That's right. That's
And
right.
Yeah,
it's
children really can't do anything wrong. They're just being children.
right.
They're
They're
testing the
just
fences,
yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
being kids.
My husband is a psychologist, and he learned in one of his trainings where he was like, whatever is in the parent's basement is in the
Mm.
child's front yard.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
I got to write that one down. I love that.
And I think about it all the time. It's definitely the case when I think
That
about my
might be
own
the
kids.
title of this podcast. That might be the title of this episode.
Wow. I hope I get to come back, reincarnate, and I'm either going to be a lawyer or a psychologist the next time. Learn stuff like that. That is great.
Isn't that true? And
Yeah.
they're showing up exactly like you said, Jennifer, like, this is what is yours to work through.
Yeah, and the trauma that we're trying to prevent, the emotional trauma that we're trying to prevent here with everything, with the podcast, with my company, is that, like, like people will cling to what's in their basement. They will cling to their pain. They will cling to their trauma. They will cling to their right. I actually had this thought the other day, and it's a hazing metaphor from college.
Mm.
Like when you go into not so much with sororities, but definitely in fraternities, there's still hazing. Anyone who thinks there isn't is fooling themselves. They get hazed. It's awful. They make them do really terrible things. At least the campus that I was on. So hazing, where you have to prove, incoming freshmen or sophomores have to prove themselves worthy of getting into the fraternity. I mean, and this could even translate into gang culture, where they have to do something to get into the gang, and it's usually like a horrendous crime of some kind.
Yeah.
But the thought that I had to prove their loyalty, right? And so the thought that I had was, when we parent through our trauma, when we parent through our pain, we are literally doing the same thing to our children that our parents did to us, and the same thing that their parents did to them, and the same thing that their parents. And it's literally a hazing of initiation into adulthood, of like, you have to achieve this, you have to be like this, you have to behave like this, you have to hide your emotions, you have to get straight A's, you have to, like, check these boxes in order to be worthy of being an adult, or of being in our family, or of being worthy of love, either from us or from your friends or from a partner in the future. Like, it's literally hazing. We haze our children. And it's such a harsh word, but
it's a set of expectations. It's not unconditional love, like
yeah.
we talk about. It's, you have to be. Here's how you have to behave to be part of this tribe, this part of this social unit. Gangs will do that just so they have something. It's a matter of control too, because then they have pictures of you stealing a car or killing someone or
Yeah,
something
collateral.
heinous, and so it's like, you are ours now, baby.
Mm,
And
Yeah.
doing that to kids with performance, I had never thought of it that way before, but absolutely
mm, yeah.
It came to me the other day when I was doing the dishes.
came to me in the soapy water.
And I guess the question is like, if that's the case, what is the feeling of breaking that kind of generational trauma? What do you
Hmm.
lose by interrupting that? Because
Comfort.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so too. And maybe some loyalty, like some connection that you had to your
Mm,
parents.
yeah.
Um, and it's kind of like disloyal in some ways to kind of break those habits or patterns in families.
Yeah.
Especially if
Yeah.
you're
Generational
around,
curses.
especially if you're around extended family and I'm not even talking about like deep abuse where you've like completely
Mhm.
separated from your nuclear family of when you were growing up. Like it's as simple as my mom isn't speaking to my or saying something to my child that is against my parenting value. The need
Mhm.
for me to play referee, to have to call my mom out or and it doesn't have to be mean. It can just be kindly like, we really don't want to talk about food like that with, and I don't have children yet. This is not a real example. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Um,
A little
we don't
disclaimer. Yeah.
we don't want to talk to our kids like that about food because it can cause shame around food and blah, blah, blah. And like, I understand you're trying to get her
Yeah.
to eat. Thank you for trying to help. We would prefer if in this situation you framed it like this and then give her an example. That can also feel, especially if you grew up in a house where like you don't talk back to your parents, you don't argue with your parents, like parents are always right, children are always wrong. That can be wildly triggering to try and like that like disloyal feeling of I'm going to tell my mom or my dad, like, don't talk to my kid that way.
mm,
Here's how I
But
would
that
rather
is
you said that to my child. Yeah.
mhm,
but that is the role that you have graduated into when you become a parent, is you are now these, like, you are responsible for what happens to your child or for how your child is treated. And obviously you can't follow them around everywhere and go to school with them or whatever. But when you are shaping the way that the people that child is constantly exposed to are speaking and teaching them, like
yeah,
you're there as a referee. You're there to guide people on how you are raising that child.
yeah,
Yep. Yep. Doing more guiding. That's really interesting. We sometimes we're not even aware of what's in our basement. The stuff you get from your
Mm-hmm.
parents, right? It's in your parents' basement is slowly being transferred to your child's basement.
right,
And, right?
right,
And it may be something big like a beating or some horrible witnessing event, and or it can be something very small like you're talking about, like just a way of speaking, racism, a way of speaking about other people or groups, or very small, it can go down. I can imagine that goes down. Communicating attitudes and stuffing stuff in your kid's basement goes down to very innocuous. I feel stupid complaining about this, but here's how I want you to say this. And the
Yeah.
mindfulness would be so useful in, you know, keeping your cool, retraining the grandparents to
yeah,
parent different, or at least grandparent different, as well
yeah,
as manage your own and manage your kids. And oh my God, the whole mindfulness thing and parenting, I'm just, it's kind of opening things up for me here. It's so
yeah.
applicable to everything. Wow.
Yeah, just raising that awareness, I think, is huge. And I think that like I'm kind of like thinking about it for myself that those referee examples are real and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
very uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
I actually think it's worse. I think it's more painful when you're the bad guy. Like you're repeating it, even it's not your
Yeah.
values, it's not what
Yeah.
you believe in, but you're just
Yes.
Yeah.
like, "Look, I'm finding myself completely doing this thing that caused me so much pain." And that's like the really hard one.
Yes.
That's the
It's
growth
like your
thing.
parents'
The
voice is
pain.
coming out of your mouth.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, who was that?
Exactly.
Hey,
Exactly.
honey, close the basement door. My basement's getting out.
Exactly. Yes, that happened the other day. My son was just taking a long time in the shower, and I was tired. I just wanted him to get to bed. And I was also like cranky, and I was just like, get out of the shower. Like, I was like, no more, and like, no sugar coating. And he goes to me and he starts crying. This is like, he's sensitive,
Oh.
the little one. And he goes like,
Sure.
you said I was a bad boy. And I was like,
Oh,
I never said you were bad. Like, that's like against everything I believe in.
Yeah.
But he can hear in my tone, like I'm annoyed with you right now.
Yeah.
Like, get out. And it's just so like painful. Like it crushed me that like he was like, why did you say I was a bad boy? And I was like, you're not. I'm just tired.
well, so
Oh.
we are kind of doing that when we snap at somebody. We're not
Yeah,
using the words "bad boy," but we are communicating that
that's
whatever bad
what
boy means. We
I
are unhappy with you or what
yeah.
your behavior or whatever. So that's actually really perceptive for him to make that jump there.
I know it's heartbreaking, but very perceptive. He's very,
And
very
every
smart.
parent does it. You can't. I mean, life happens, and sometimes there's just not time for. It's
Yeah.
like I need something to happen now.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one
Another
of
thing my
those
husband has been go on.
that's I was just going to say that's another that's one of those moments though in parenting, like it's going to happen. You're going to get tired. So those moments are going to
Yeah,
happen, and the important thing there is that you did then say, I'm so tired. You're not a bad boy. I'm sure you even said, I'm sorry I spoke to you that way. Like, I needed you to get out of the shower and I was frustrated. And it's not okay for me to talk to you like that. Right.
Yes.
So that when they're in relationships in the future, and you're allowed to be annoyed too. That's the other thing is mama is annoyed. Mama is so tired. But I shouldn't have acted like that towards you. Like
Right.
my feeling, like you're allowed to
hmm
have your feelings, but you're not allowed to act however you want to act. And by doing that with him, he's going to be able to do that in the future with if he does something or he messes
That's
up
right.
towards
He
something with
learns.
you. Like
Yeah.
the first time, and it may have already happened, but that your kid looks at you and goes, I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I didn't mean that or what, like
Oh,
whatever. Oh my god, the level of like crying and like sad that you were like, oh my god, I went against my own values in that
Yeah.
moment will be reflected in like the heart spring overflowing joy of when your child reflects back to you the ability to apologize and take accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say along those same lines, like my husband is very much into, because he tends to be the more reactive
Mm,
parent. He's also so much better at making like repair, like what you're
mm,
describing.
hmm.
And he's often in the case of being like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have yelled. And he still like carries
Wow.
feelings about it, but that repair is so like I can see how healing it is for kids. And I remember when I
Sure.
was a kid, I remember the instances where my parents apologized to me like
yep,
with crisp detail. Like I
yep,
remember it so clearly because it was very meaningful to me.
yeah.
So I think that's right. I think that's part of this process is modeling that too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. Any kind of discipline, is better with some kind of restitution,
Yes.
making up and certainly taking accountability, for your own actions and saying, yeah, I realize I guess is that a form of validation? I realize I screwed up. I shouldn't have yelled at
It's
you. Here's
accountability.
why. Mea culpa, yeah. That's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And seeing that in little kids, that's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Mindfulness is so what is mindfulness? I mean, being self-aware, thoughtfulness. I'm here. I have all kinds of words bouncing around when we talk about mindfulness and then its application here.
Yeah.
Well, you could call mindfulness it could go by all kinds of names in these different
Mm-hmm.
situations.
Yes, I think that's right. I think the classical from the Buddhist tradition, what the word mindfulness is, it's a
Mhm.
flooding of awareness of
Hmm.
what you're doing when you're doing it. So that's why
Okay.
meditation is a form of mindfulness, because you're trying to be present and to bring awareness into that moment. But it could also be the things exactly what we're talking about. Like, are you bringing awareness into your activity, or are you just kind of on autopilot, whatever it is that
Yeah.
you're doing?
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
love,
That's very revealing to me. I think of mindfulness as, like you were saying, okay, I have an hour a day. I go meditate. I burn incense. I whatever gets me in the into flow. Gets me into the frame of mind. And there's real life. That doesn't always happen. But applying that to something I can do in karate, there were people who would compete and would do their kata very smoothly, kind of like Tai Chi, not like I'm going to break
Mhm.
your arm. And
Yes.
I remember talking to the instructor going, I think I could take her. What am I missing here? It's just there was this well respected black belt lady doing this. And he looked at me and shook it. He said, "She would eat you alive." And he explained to me that she was doing it meditatively, and
Yes.
that was a style that I was not acquainted with yet. It was kind of a pat on the head. It's like, yeah, don't fool yourself,
like,
buddy.
oh.
She's doing it. She's past breaking bones, and she's doing it
Yeah.
meditatively now. And so,
Mm-hmm.
which you can just do anything meditatively or
That's
mindfully.
right.
That's very revealing to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
And to
And
current
I
when you
love,
do
activity.
that, it's like, you just, like, life comes more into relief. Like, you're in
mm,
your life rather than thinking about it or alienated from it, or, worrying about something in the future, the past. It's just, you're in it.
yeah, you're experiencing it. Something I remember from when I was younger is that there would be a lot of like big experiences that it was like you just gotta like get ready, get it together, and do the thing, and then I would reflect later. So it was like I would experience it after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
like my memory, instead of actually being fully present in the
Mm-hmm.
moment when it was
Yeah,
happening.
easier to focus
And
later. Yeah.
it would
Hmm.
happen with like good things, but it would also happen with really, bless you, it would happen with really hard things. Like I was 17 when I got cancer, and I went
Oh.
through, and everyone always would make comments about like, oh, you're just such like a positive light through this, and you're just you're just like so strong, and um this and that and the other. And mostly, it was people who weren't seeing the dark, hard stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
moments, the ugly moments.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
Seeing the
also, and I took
outside.
it, you know, as encouragement and a compliment. But then about 6 months later, after it was all over and I had gone off to college, about 6 months later, I came home for Christmas break and had a complete fucking breakdown. like, and it was, I had hosted a party in my basement, unbeknownst to my mother, and which was
don't,
that
don't
was my
listen now,
thing.
Sue.
That was my thing back then.
Oh.
And I mean, she knows now, but and I was drinking, and went up to go to the bathroom, and just it was like the reality of cancer can kill you hit me. I
Mm,
literally went upstairs to pee, and I was like with my friend, I was like just completely not thinking about that. Went upstairs to pee, and I looked in the mirror. This is what triggered it. And I had taken my wig off and gotten my first pixie haircut after my hair started to grow back. And I looked in the mirror at my new haircut drunk. And it was this this realization of what I had actually gone through.
Yeah.
And I lost my mind. Now, some of that is like, you were 17, you had other things going on, but I literally, it was like 4 or 5 months of treatment. And I was just like life is just, we're just going to keep going. We're just going to integrate this. We're just going to keep trying to keep things as normal as possible. And just like, yeah, you have to go for the weekend for chemotherapy. And then we're going to be sick for a while. And then we're going to go back to school and like keep up on your homework and this. And all I could think about was my hair is falling out and I needed to maintain my GPA to be valedictorian. That's all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't processing the fact that like cancer could kill you.
That sounds very wise to me. Like something in your body knew that was not the time or the place to be processing that right now. Like you needed resources to get through that.
Yeah.
And I think that sounds like incredibly like that your body was doing something really wise by not letting that come to the surface at that time.
Yeah.
Something to focus on besides the fear and the uncertainty and all that of, something to make the one foot in front of the other day by day. This should pass. Yeah. How does that relate to mindfulness? I mean, you're in the middle of it. You're plodding through it, getting through the stuff, keeping the fear at bay. It's not bliss. It's not nirvana,
Right.
but that sounds kind of like another word for mindfulness too, being in the moment, bringing awareness into your current activity.
That's right. I think it's similar to what I said before about how I think the ultimate purpose of mindfulness or this path of awakening is about being with what is. And in this case, and this happens all the time with my clients and with people that I'm working with, where they're like, I feel I'm going through something, or at this point, like I'm trying to feel my feelings, but I feel really numb or I feel really disconnected. And that too, can you accept that too? Can you be like open to being shut off?
Okay.
And even that you can like hold with love and with care, that this is what your system needs right now. And if you can really like give that the time and love and space, then your numbness will eventually, as it did for you, it will eventually crumble and you will have the feelings, because we all do. But your body knew that it was a safer time after it sounds like it was done.
I've got the room to think about it and appreciate it now.
Right.
That almost sounds like, I'm sorry, Jen, I'm doing too much talking this time. The witness we talk about in the middle of your emotions, right? You're there. It sounds like there's a very there's two pieces of your mind going at the same time. There's the part that's being mindful,
Right.
which I guess is the rational part or something. So you're kind of looking at your emotions and fear and whatever you're going through, depression, sadness, and using the mindfulness, using the mind to kind of deal with the emotions. I never heard it put quite so much like there were really two pieces of your brain going on there before.
And sometimes more than two. And the like holding of it all, the best way I've heard it described for me, that's really helpful way to describe it for me, is like imagining that you can touch into, that you are a part of like the bottom of an ocean. And when you can kind of touch that part of any moment, then you're also the whole top of the ocean, like where there's waves and there's ups and there's downs. But if you can access that big vastness that's deep, 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 that is not troubled by what's happening up top,
All right.
that it can hold all of it, then you're, like that's what real presence feels like. And it's not just like small you, it's like the you that is connected to the whole world.
It's kind of a
I love
continuum.
that.
It's not two parts of your brain. It's an infinite. It's gray,
Infinite.
shades of gray, shades of depth.
That's right.
It's almost like a slowing or a stilling of your mind, and and just, I'm having so many thoughts at once right now. It just feels the bottom of the ocean feels very still and quiet,
Yes.
and peaceful, and you don't have to do anything. You can just observe and hold.
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of people, when they come to me and they're like, I tried meditating, but I couldn't quiet my mind, or I couldn't stop thinking. And if you think about it like the ocean, it's like the ocean's not trying to stop the waves up at the
Yeah.
top. You don't have to stop your mind from thinking.
Yeah.
You just have to unblend yourself from the thoughts and
Yes.
get down deep into the depths. And then whatever happens up there happens up there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're like able to hold all of it.
I love that. You, a little while ago, you said the phrase, mothering is the practice. Parenting is the practice right now in this season of life. And I wanted to circle back to that because I think that can be really helpful for our audience, to reframe the who I was before I was a parent and the who I am after. Like, you're not meant to be the same person. First of
Yeah.
all, a parent has been born. Just as children are born, you are now a different version of yourself in this new season of life. And some of these practices, these mindfulness, meditation, or like whatever modalities resonate with you, like, let the practice be your parenting, like sink into that. And like you said, like accept what is, lower your resistance to it, and let that be the practice. And in any given moment, like, the practice is, are you the tree in the wind and your children are the wind, by the way. Can you be the tree in the wind? Like, you are the adult, you have the experience, and you are the capable one in the house. Can you take that role? Can you step into that? And that doesn't mean you're
Ideally.
perfect or any,
What
Well, I
about
think
households where the parent is the wind,
yeah, that's a whole
right?
nother thing
And
too.
the child hasn't learned to sink deep roots, to get it. Yeah, there's just all kinds of twists and turns to that. Don't be
Yeah.
the wind.
I also want to add one more thing though, which is that I think that in these situations where you are the tree, sometimes you also need to be like the tree for yourself. It's almost like even if you have a child, there's another baby in the room with you that you have to equally take care of, which is the one that's
Oh
inside,
man.
totally triggered. And
Yes.
so both of those are true. Like,
Yes.
don't do that to your kid, but the only way you can sometimes not do that to your kid is if you're also taking care of the other kid,
Yes.
the inner
I
kid.
suddenly want to take some
Yes.
mushrooms or some LSD. This is starting to sound to me kind of like you take these drugs and suddenly I am the universe.
Yeah.
That all encompassing consciousness awareness thing. This is starting to touch on for me. That's
I
weird.
think
That's
you're right.
great.
I love
That'd be good
it.
to do it without the drugs. Be able to do it driving down the road too.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like in a
Huh.
tantrum.
All
Lots to
right,
think about out
Yael.
there, parents. I wish I'd have known this like 50 years ago.
Right?
Well, it's amazing that you're here now.
I wasn't born in
you
New
were
York.
meant to.
I should have been in New York.
Yael, I know that you have to get going, and is there anything that we haven't touched on that is super important to yourself or your business, or any final words that you want to share?
No, I think I've enjoyed this so much. And
Good.
I really think the name of the game is just kind of compassion for ourselves as parents and for the children we were and carrying around still.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think, like, if this practice is interesting to you and you want to learn more about it, I would love you to reach out to me um, and
Yeah.
join my programs.
Tell everybody
Get
where
all
they
that
can
stuff in
find
the
you.
description. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you can find me at yaelshy.com, or in the show notes here, and or on Instagram at Yael Shy #1, the number
Awesome.
one.
Beautiful. And
Excellent.
I just want to remind everybody, so all of Yael's information will be in the show notes as well. And we do have our Patreon live. We have the $5, $7, and $11 tiers. The $5 tier is a live shout out on the show. The $7 tier, we actually have our first mini episode from last week that it's about a 25-minute episode that'll be going into the $7 and $11 access area. And then the upgrade to the $11, I haven't added a third thing yet, but we'll get there. We're going to add maybe some live opportunities where me and Dad go live and you guys can ask us questions. So $5, $7, and $11 tiers for Patreon donations. And you can find Yael in the show notes. You can find me in the show notes, whatever kind of help and coaching you are looking for. And thank you so much for being here, Yael. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was so
Thanks,
much
Yael.
fun.
Great to meet you and great to hear
Yeah.
you talk.
Thank you too. Thank you. Such
Best
a
of luck.
pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
If someone came to mind while you were listening to this episode, or you are wishing you had a friend to digest it with, I would be so honored if you shared this link from this episode with them. I myself have always benefited from community and sharing, and I truly believe that it takes a village to raise a child. Our society has become so independent from one another, and parenting these days is often a lonely journey. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's why I'm here. If you have been seeking a more intentional approach to parenting, but you aren't sure where to start, I would love to hear from you. You can find me and all of my offerings at www.jennyb.co. And come follow me on all major social media platforms. It fills my heart to hear your stories, where you come from, and your big goals for raising the next generation. And don't forget, comment your parenting question on our YouTube channel, The Relational Parenting Podcast, to get it answered on one of our future episodes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss out. I am so grateful that you are here. And always remember, you are never alone. I'll see you next week.